The night had fallen softly, and the sky was covered in a thick blanket of clouds. Gentle raindrops tapped against the window of the car, a rhythm so calm it felt like the earth was whispering lullabies. The road ahead was winding, cutting through a forested path, far from the noise of the city. You were on a journey, one not just through space, but through silence, peace, and a longing for deep, uninterrupted sleep. The hum of the tires against the wet road, the occasional flicker of lightning in the distance, and the quiet hush inside the car all blended into a soothing melody. Every few moments, the soft roar of thunder rolled across the sky, never too close to startle, just near enough to be felt like a comforting presence in the distance. Your head rested against the cool glass, eyes half closed, following the sway of the trees as they passed by. Their leaves shimmered under the falling rain, and the air smelled of earth, wet bark, and something else, ... something old and magical. The driver said nothing, as if even words would disturb the sacred calm of the night. Finally, the car came to a gentle stop. The driver turned to you and smiled, his voice low and steady. You've arrived. Welcome to the Hotel of Sleep. Outside, the hotel stood like a dream, a warm wooden building glowing softly in the rain. Ivy curled round its edges, and soft golden light spilled from its windows. The sign above the door didn't shine, it glowed, with the name engraved in gentle cursive, as if handwritten by sleep itself. You stepped out of the car, the rain kissing your skin with cool droplets. As you reached the front door, it creaked, open on its own, as though it had been waiting for you. Inside, it was warm. The air was thick with the scent of tea, old books, and a hint of lavender. Wooden floors creaked gently underfoot, not loud enough to disturb, just enough to remind you that this place had lived many years, many stories, many sleepers. Behind the front desk stood an elderly woman with kind eyes and a knowing smile. "We've been expecting you," she said softly. "Time moves slower here, and dreams last longer." She handed you a brass key with a small wooden tag. Room No. 7. You walked up the old staircase, the soft groans of the wood under your feet somehow, adding to the comfort, not taking from it. As you've reached the room, the hallway seemed to grow quieter. The storm outside deepened, but inside, the silence grew warmer, more complete. Room 7 opened with ease. Inside, there was a large bed dressed in clean, white sheets, a window wet. The rain played its tune against the glass, and a cozy chair beside a flickering lamp. You placed your bag on the floor, took off your shoes, and lay down on the bed. It embraced you like a cloud. Outside, the storm hummed. Inside, peace whispered this wasn't just a hotel, it was a doorway to sleep, and you had just stepped through. The moment you lay down on the bed in room 7, a quiet sigh seemed to leave your body, one you hadn't even realized you were holding in. The mattress was neither too soft nor too firm. It welcomed you like a memory of warmth. The sheets were cool and crisp, their scent clean and comforting, as if they had been sun-dried in a garden that existed only in dreams. The storm outside continued its quiet song. Rain whispered against the window pane, steady and soothing, while distant thunder rolled like a slow drum. There was no fear in its sound-only rhythm, the kind of rhythm that lulls rather than alarms, like an ancient lullaby carried by the clouds. You lay still for a moment, listening. No ticking clock, no hallway sounds, just the soft patter of rain, the occasional creak of the old wooden beams above you, and your own slowing breath. Time here was different, almost unreal. Each second stretched out, not in boredom, but in ease, like a deep, lingering exhale. From where you lay, you could see the warm lamp on the wooden nightstand. Its light wasn't bright. It flickered gently like candlelight, casting golden shadows that moved slowly across the ceiling. The lamp seemed to pulse in time with the storm, as if breathing with it. You noticed a small book resting next to the lamp. Its cover was old leather, and the title, embossed in gold, Whispers Before Sleep. Curiosity nudged you, but you felt no urgency to open it. The book could wait. Everything could wait. On the far side of the room, the window stood slightly open, just enough to let in the sound of the rain and the cool night breeze. The curtains swayed with each gust, and from outside came the scent of wet earth and pine. It was the smell of a forest under rainfall, green, ancient dot. You sat up just a little and reached for the blanket folded at the foot of the bed. It was thick and soft, like woven wool and clouds. You pulled it over yourself, and it seemed to wrap not just around your body, but around your thoughts too, quieting them. Everything became slower, softer, lighter dot. The chair in the corner called to you briefly, like a quiet invitation to sit and watch the storm. But the bed was too welcoming. Your eyelids, heavy now, didn't want to open again. You settled deeper, into the pillows, your breath slowing, your hands relaxing by your sides. A soft chime rang out somewhere in the hotel, a gentle bell, far away. It wasn't a wake-up sound. It was the opposite. A signal, perhaps. The sleep was drawing nearer, drifting in through the open window, riding on raindrops and shadows. You weren't sure when your thoughts stopped being thoughts and began becoming dreams. You only knew that the storm was still singing, the bed was still warm, and the night was just beginning to unfold. You weren't sure if you had drifted off or simply fallen into a deeper state of stillness. Time didn't feel real anymore. The room held you like a slow-moving cloud, and the rain, ever steady, was a lullaby playing just for you outside. The wind shifted, and for a moment the sound of distant chimes floated in soth, like tiny bells swinging from a tree far away. Then came a gentle knock at the door. It wasn't abrupt or loud. It was soft 3 light taps, spaced just enough apart to let you know there was no rush, no demand, only an offering. You opened your eyes slowly, your body still heavy with comfort. Rising from the bed wasn't difficult, but it was like stepping through layers of warmth. You padded barefoot across the old wooden floor. The door creaked open with the same soft ease everything in the hotel seemed to possess. Outside stood a young man in a long coat, holding a tray. His voice was barely above a whisper. "A cup of sleep tea," he said. "Compliments of the night." You nodded, accepting the tray. The cup was warm in your hands. Steam curled up from it, carrying the scent of chamomile, mint, and something you couldn't quite place, something that smelled like calm itself. The man gave you a slight bow, then disappeared down the hallway without a sound, as if he had never been there at all. You returned to the bed, the storm still murmuring behind the glass. The tea was delicious, soothing, with a taste that lingered just long enough to warm you from the inside. As you drank, you noticed a small folded note on the tray. The paper was soft and textured, and written in looping handwriting. Were the words, "The deeper you rest, the closer you are to the hidden rooms." You weren't sure what it meant, but somehow it felt right, like something you had always known. Finishing the last sip of tea, you set the cup down and lay back. Again, your body, already relaxed, now melted into the bed like wax in a flame. The room grew quieter still, as though even the storm outside was beginning to fall asleep. Your thoughts floated gently, no worries, no plans, just soft images, rain falling. Through lantern light, leaves dancing across puddles, stars behind clouds. You thought you heard music, faint and far away, like a lullaby played on an old piano somewhere deep in the hotel. The light from the lamp dimmed further on its own. The curtains swayed once more. The bed breathed with you. You let your eyes close. Again, you let the room hold you. In the distance, a clock struck once, low and slow, and then there was nothing. You weren't sure when you fell asleep, if you had ever fully awakened. The line between waking and dreaming had blurred, smudged like soft charcoal on a canvas. The room, the bed, the sound of the rain. It all felt distant now, like echoes of a memory you were still wrapped in. You opened your eyes, but this time the room looked different. The rain still whispered beyond the window, but the light was strange like moonlight mixed with candlelight. Blue and gold blending across the wooden walls. You sat up slowly. Everything felt softer now. The bed didn't creak. The floor didn't groan. When your feet touched it, it was warm, almost alive. You walked to the door again, not entirely sure. Why? Maybe the note from before still lingered in your mind. The deeper you rest, the closer you are to the hidden rooms. You turned the handle. Outside was no longer the hallway you had come through before. This hallway was wider, endless, and covered in deep blue carpet that shimmered like starlight. There were doors on either side, some open, some closed, all glowing faintly. The air smelled of lavender and thyme. You stepped forward, barefoot and calm. Each door you passed had a small plaque, not with numbers, but with feelings, stillness, memory, rainlight, quiet joy. The doors seemed to breathe, just slightly, like they were asleep too, dreaming their own dreams. One door stood ajar, its plaque read, "Childhood Rain." Curious, you pushed it gently open. Inside was a room that wasn't quite a room. It looked like a backyard, lit by twilight, where soft rain fell over the grass and wooden swings moved on their own. You could hear laughter, but it was distant, like hearing your own voice from long ago. The smell of warm pavement after a summer shower filled the air. You didn't enter. Just seeing it was enough to make something inside you settle even deeper. A soft ache, familiar, but not painful. A memory, maybe, or a feeling you hadn't felt in years. You continued down the hallway. Another door whispered open as you passed. This one was labeled Stormless Sleep. Inside, you saw a room with a high bed, white canopies, and feather-like snowflakes falling without cold. A fireplace crackled gently in the corner, and no shadows moved. Only peace. The hallway stretched on, a quiet invitation. But something in you said it was time to return. Not because you were afraid, but because you were full of rest, of calm, of wonder. You turned around and the hallway folded itself gently, like a closing page of a book. Before you knew it, you were back in room 7. The bed waited, just as you had left it. You lay down again, the blanket drawing itself over you as if it knew you were coming. The window was closed now, but the sound of rain still played softly, as if coming from inside you. Sleep returned not sharply, but like a tide, pulling you gently back under Dot. And in that final moment, before dreams reclaimed you, you thought you heard a whisper. You are safe. You are home. Oh, you were floating now, not flying, not falling, just gently drifting through something warm and endless. The rain was still there, but it sounded distant, like it was falling in another world. A world above you while you rested far below, wrapped in layers of hush and hush again. Room 7 had faded into the background, as if it had folded itself away for a while. All that remained was the feeling of comfort, of a place that knew you were tired, and asked nothing in return but for you to breathe. You dreamed, but your dreams weren't loud or strange. They were soft, like old songs heard from another room. You saw colors, blues and golds, greys and silvers. You walked through a garden once, beneath trees made of clouds. You heard voices whispering gentle stories, none of which needed remembering. Their purpose wasn't to teach or warn, but simply to soothe. Time moved like mist. You may have slept for minutes, or hours, or days. There was no measure in the hotel of sleep-only depth. And you had gone deep, deep enough to forget the weight you carried when you arrived, deep enough that waking didn't seem necessary. Not yet. Then slowly, softly, something shifted, a breeze, the kind that doesn't come through a window, but through the soul. You felt it first on your hands, then across your cheeks, then through your thoughts. It didn't pull you, didn't push you. It simply reminded you that somewhere, far off, there was light. A golden warmth touched your eyes. The rain was still there, but now it was lighter, tapping playfully instead of steadily, and with it came birdsong quiet and cautious, like the very first notes of morning. You opened your eyes. Room 7 was glowing with early dawn. The lamp was off. The curtains gently waved, and outside, the clouds had softened, letting a silver light pour across the wooden floor. The air smelled of fresh rain and something new, something like daybreak. You sat up, your body feeling rested in a way it hadn't in years. There was no heaviness, no rush, only clarity, only quiet strength. A knock came again, just once this time. The same young man from before stood in the hallway with a calm smile. "Would you like breakfast?" he asked, "or would you prefer to rest a little longer?" You thought for a moment, then you smiled. I'll rest a little longer, you said. He nodded, and the door closed without a sound. You lay back down, one last time. Not because you were tired, but because you had learned how beautiful it was. To simply be still. The world could wait. The morning would come. And for now, the storm would keep singing just a little longer. And as your eyes closed once more, you understood sleep is not an escape. It's a return to quiet, to calm, to calm.